Hey, hi. In this video, we will see how to upgrade AWS EKS cluster with using Terraform. Our EKS cluster will be at version 1.2.9, which is managed by Terraform. We will upgrade this EKS cluster to version 1.3.0, which is latest version. During this process of upgrade, we will see that the application that is hosted on the EKS cluster at version 1.2.9 will remain highly available during the complete process of EKS cluster upgrade. Right? And finally, we will see that when cluster gets upgraded to version 1.3.0, the application will be still intact and will be working as expected. This is the VS Code where I have kept the the required Terraform code to create an example AWS EKS cluster at version 1.2.9. So this cluster, I have run this Terraform script which has created the cluster. If I take you to my AWS account, so this is my AWS account where we have created an example EKS cluster called prod-cluster at version 1.2.9. It is telling us to upgrade to the latest version, that is 1.3.0. So which is we're gonna see here. But during this process, we will make sure that the application does not goes down, right? So we follow all the best practices that is need to be taken care, right? When the cluster is being managed with using Terraform, it is already managed at a standard level, right? But still, as part of this demo, we will see how to do that. So firstly, I have created an EKS cluster which I have shown you. So this is what the the status is all about. The one you see in this particular terminal, right? So if I can show you my code here, so this is basically a source code which is creates the EKS cluster. I'm going to share this the source code link where you can find the access to this particular code and try to go through it, right? So here what I did is I have cloned that repository here and directly run the Terraform init and apply Terraform init plan and apply. It got created the EKS cluster. Then I ran the command that is kubectl get nodes, right? It was throwing the error because it was not having access to the API server. So we did updated the kubeconfig file. So with using this command AWS EKS update kubeconfig hyphen name and the pod cluster name, that is basically pod cluster is my cluster name. So then that got that kubeconfig file got updated. Then I ran the command that is kubectl get node, which means that it has returned the node's name, which means that I'm able to talk to the my EKS cluster. Now on this EKS cluster, I have let's try to install an example application. So this is the sample manifest file which deploys an example application, that is container application on this EKS cluster. So here it is the deployment of application type Nginx. Replicas are 3. We are creating a service, and then we are also adding a pod disruption budget with the minimum availability of 2. Right, so why do we add pod disruption budget on the deployment is to basically secure our application from going down during the cluster upgradation process, right? So that is where so this is what we are configuring it here. Now let me try to apply this particular configuration and we try to access this application at the version 1.2.9. So let me run a command called kubectl apply kubectl apply hyphen sample application. So this sample application file is actually available in this particular path, right? That is basically underneath the AWS EKS upgrade path itself. So I can directly apply this. So what it happens is basically it will deploy an application, right? And also create required services in front of that, right? We don't have any ingress, so it's very difficult to access from the internet with using the public IP address or DNS, right? Or basically FQDN. But what do I do is I'm going to use the workaround, that is using the port forwarding method. So currently we are in the context of EKS cluster API server. Let's forward this particular service, right? And then we try to access it from the internet or basically with using the local host. Now what I do is, if you see here, it has created a service. It has created the basically, if you see that it has created the pod disruption budget policy as well. Deployment has been created like that. Now I have a command which can help me to do the port forwarding on this particular service, and we try to access it this particular service from my laptop, because we are doing a port forwarding to this local laptop. Yeah. So if you see here, it is now being accessible over this local host IP address, And let me take you to the my browser and try to access that particular application by running this particular command. And here you go, right side. So basically we deployed the Nginx application, we created the services, we actually created the power disruption budget. Now the application is running. Now we are actually good to go ahead with the process of EKS cluster upgrade. Now to upgrade, so the steps is very simple, straightforward here. So before you upgrade the EKS clusters, you need to understand the source code, how the source code is being set up. So to help you to understand the source code here, I will go at a high level. So we have a main.terraform file, which is basically consists of invoking the modules. The modules are being kept in the module folder containing EKS module, IAM module, security group, and VPC module. So these modules are being called from here, if you see here, right? And then here is the last one, that is EKS cluster module creation is being invoked from here. So this is the module which creates the EKS cluster and deploys the required node group and the launch template as well. To help you to understand, let me go to this particular module here, and I will quickly show you the resources that we are creating with using Terraform here. So we are creating an EKS cluster. We are creating the launch template. Remember that we are using the launch template, and the launch template is referring the image ID. That is very, very important point. Now let me go down to the other resources. So we are creating the worker node group here, right? And then we are actually adding an add-on. So here, as part of the EKS cluster upgrade to version 1.30, we need to do two things. One, upgrade the control plane version from 1.2.9 to 1.3.0, and then upgrade the worker nodes by updating the launch template version, which gets automatically upgraded because we are using the Terraform here, okay? And then the other one is basically upgrade the managed or basically workload node groups, which gets automatically upgraded. Now to help you to understand, I have TF4 file. So this is the file which we are, I'm using as a parameterization. So we have a variables that TF file, which is declaring the variable. We have .tf files, which is actually passing the values to those variables. So here our cluster version is, this one's the version. The instance size, I'm using is T2 micro. Region is US West 2. The cluster version is 2.9, and then we have a AMI ID that is basically with the launch template. AMI ID is nothing but this is the AMI ID which is used to spin up the EKS cluster. To spin up the EKS cluster nodes, okay, so which we can see it from here. I will go to this one particular one, go to the compute. So in the compute, we should see the node group here. If you click on this node group, you have the nodes here. So basically there should be a nodes. Currently we can find the nodes from the EC2 pages, and there you can see the image ID as well. So if I open this, so currently what I'm doing is I'm trying to help you to understand how does the launch template is been set up, and how does that will take part in the EKS cluster upgrade. So here we have the 3 running worker nodes which we have seen here. So here we will see the ID, if you see here. So here is the AMI ID which we have used, right? So ending with so this is the one. Okay, if I can do a try, so this is what the AMI ID we have used, right? And that with using this AMI only, we are creating a node group for your information. And along with that, we have a Kubernetes add-ons. So we have a Kubernetes add-ons like VPC CNI, kubeproxy as well. So these are all the add-on also need to be upgraded once the cluster gets upgraded, right? So now as part of version upgrade, what I do is I'm gonna do nothing but I just change the number here. That is, earlier we had a version of 1.2.9. Now we are incrementing it to 1.30, and then we need to change the AMI ID as well, right? And then we also need to change the basically we also need to change the VPC CNI versions as well. All right, now let me save this one. So to get the AMI ID, we need to find the AMI ID. So to find the AMI ID, what you can do is you can go to the, for now you can copy this AMI name like that, and go to the left pane here and try to find out the AMIs here, and then sort out to the public images, and then try to search with the name like so the basically name contains, and then put here like this. And when what we do is we're going to switch to the version 1.3.0 like this and try to get the names. So here you have the lot many AMI names with this particular options here. Now let me take the latest AMI ID which is recently released. So we see that the recently released is basically on 3rd July, which is this is the AMI ID which I'm gonna copy. So what we do is we're gonna use this AMI ID and try to create a new version. So let me try to remove this off. So we're gonna use this AMI ID because that is the image ID of the EKS cluster version 1.3.0. Right? Let me put it in the command. But when we run the Terraform apply, we're gonna change it basically. Yeah. And similarly, you need to get the versions basically in the versions IDs as well. To get the versions ID, I have created a PowerShell script which actually does help you actually here. So I'm gonna do a Control C to come out of this port forwarding in the terminal. I'm gonna clear all the options. What we do is we're gonna change the so we're gonna change the this is a very simple PowerShell script. You open it in your terminal and try to try to run this. But before you run this, change the Kubernetes version to the version you want to search for. So here I'm searching for version 1.3.0. So I'm going to run this one. So once I run this particular PowerShell script, what it happens is it actually gets the information that is needed for describing the add-ons belongs to this particular version, and that is stored in the JSON file, which is I have kept in this particular local repository only. So if I go to this particular repository so this is let me clean this off again, and we try to rerun the command so that we see that this file gets filled by this particular script. So I'm going to run this script again, and then if I go back to the this JSON file, so this JSON file is now updated. Now what we do is so we need to get that particular add-on version. So add-on versions can be found by referring the word like VPC CNI or kube proxy. So in the VPC CNI, if I try to search this word, so let me try to search the add-on that is version. So this is the version we need to use now. So I'm going to copy this version and try to replace that earlier value with the latest value like this, right? I'm going to keep it. And we have copied the AMI ID as well. So I'm going to copy that and try to place it here as well. So remember that these are the part of EKS cluster upgrade, in the sense when you upgrade it, you will gonna change these values so that Terraform automatically manages the infrastructure. Right? And then we're gonna go for the kube proxy as well. So let's go to the kube proxy and try to find out the kube proxy versions as well. So let me try to find out that here. So let me try to find out that. So you can do this with using the CLI as well. So but here we are using the Python script, or under the hood the Python script is actually running the ekctl commands only, right? And from there we got the add-on name, that is kubeproxy, and this is the add-on version which we want to add it in the TFR files. Remember that if you don't add the latest add-on versions, maybe your upgrade might fail or it will become incomplete. Right now I have changed the values of my TFR file. Now I'm very good. Basically we are now good enough to start the the Terraform upgrade process. So here the Terraform upgrade process is very simple. Now we have changed the values. What we do is we're gonna go ahead and try to run the command that is basically a Terraform apply. So I'm gonna do I'm gonna run the command called Terraform apply. So what happens is basically so it is, if you see here, it is acquiring the logs and trying to it will try to interact with the so it will try to interact with the API server, try to identify the difference, and then it has identified that it is going to change the 4 resources from that. Is one is basically launch template, which is obviously expected, and then it gonna change since the node group is dependent on the launch template, so node group will also go under a change. The cluster will also go on a change because we are upgrading the cluster version. And then finally the add-on values, in a sense the add-ons will be changed. So remember that as I explained the 4 steps, all those 4 components are getting upgraded in this version. So what I do is I'm gonna put S here and try to see whether it starts to modify the EKS cluster. So while it tries to modify, what I do is I'm going to open the another command prompt basically. So I'm going to open the CMD here, and from this CMD what we do is we try to access that the application with using port forwarding method. So to do that, I'm going to do a kubectl, that is basically AWS configure, so that I can set my context of my AWS account. So this is my session, that is I'm setting here AWS STS get caller identity. So these are the commands that you're gonna run and try to identify whether the session has been set or not. So you say AWS STS get caller identity. If it returns something like this, which means that you have set the context correctly. Now this is not enough. We also need to set up the AKS cluster context as well. So to set up the AKS cluster context, I need to upgrade the kubeconfig file. So to do that, I know I'm going to run the command called AWS EKS kubectl config. So I'm going to do that now. All right. And then once it has been done, what you can do is you can run the command called service port forwarding. Remember that, see, at the one terminal we have initiated the cluster upgrade. In the another terminal we want to do the health check of our application, right? So currently we are doing a port forwarding. Let me go to the beside the accessibility of this particular site, that is Nginx application. If you see here, it is it does not make sense, in the sense, even though there is a backend process is happening on the AKS infrastructure, but you see that the application is still intact. Now let me try to access it in the another tab, so that you actually realize that it is working. So basically, if you see that, it is very obvious, and it is getting accessed. Now let me go back to the EKS cluster, and let's see that what is happening here. So here, if I refresh it here, now we should see that it is updating. So what is that it is updating? It is updating the Kubernetes version, basically. Yeah. So now remember that upgrading of Kubernetes version will take nearby 20 minutes. So what I do is I'm going to go on a pause and come back. Okay. So meantime, I'm going to show you the changes as well. So let's go on a pause for some time and come back. Now you see that EKS cluster got upgraded just now. After 8 minutes, the cluster got upgraded. If I take you to the cluster and try to refresh it here, we should see that the cluster version is now 1.3.0, which is latest version. And parallelly in the beside, let me try to refresh the the Nginx application. That is, if you see here, the connection is still on. And then when I try to refresh it here, the application is still working. So which means that so during the upgrade, the parts are running fine, and the application is still accessible like that. Now let me go back to the terminal again. So currently it is actually modified the add-ons. Now it is trying to modify the node groups, right? So before it modifies the node groups, it has updated the launch template as well. Now we need to wait for node groups to get completed. Then once the EKS cluster completely migrates to the version 1.3.0, including all its main components, controller, add-ons, node groups, launch template, right? And then application should be accessible as expected, right? So let's wait for this process to get complete, because it's going to take some time. Then we come back. I want to show you something very interesting here during the EKS upgrade process. So if you see here, right now I have run the command called kubectl get pods. So currently we have 3 pods running for the application. And then I ran the command called kubectl get nodes. So in this one we have 5 nodes, because it is a EKS upgrade process. Right, so in that time it is creating the nodes with the latest AMI of version 1.3.0, while there are the nodes which are being running with the version that is 1.2.0, which are supposed to be removed, right? So these are all the ones. So then I run the command called kubectl get pods with -o wide. So you see that the pods were running on version 39, 27, 217, 176. If you cross verify, 217 is actually 1.2.9, that is old version. 39 is also a old version here, but only 177, right? So the node with the ending with -176. So 176 was only on 1.3.0, which means that the latest node is only one which was having a pod running. But then again I keep running, you see that it got switched, in the sense so here the one of old one, that is 176, sorry, there is a one with a like 217. So 217 got deleted, in the sense, that was removed from the scheduling, right? So I keep checking this one. So this is the traces where you can check that, what is happening under the hood here. And then finally here I run the command called kubectl get nodes, and here you see the status now, right? So you see that um, the version that is with 1.2.9 is now scheduling disabled, which means that they were being cordoned, right? And the other one is actually it does the draining as well. All right, so let's see. If I try to run the nodes again, let's see what happens. So currently it is still in the scheduling disabled, and if we try to run the previous command, that is get pods wide, and we should see that, so basically it's still waiting for it is still waiting to come out of this one, that is basically the 39. So that is, I think that is where it is currently stuck, and it would take some time, and we will check again back. Right, so till then we'll go on a pause and come back. Okay, so after staggering a lot and doing a lots of troubleshooting, I was able to successfully upgrade the node group to version EKS 1.3.0. So if you see here, the modification of EKS node group got completed. If I take you to the portal here, so this is the portal, so where you see that cluster version is 1.3.0. Then we go to the compute. If you go to the compute, and you see that the AMI version is now pointed to the latest AMI version, which we have taken, that is 35 A8, right? So the AMI version is 35 A8, right? And then if you click on that node group, so the node group version is now 1.3.30. So basically 1.30, right? And then update history. So if you see the update history here, so I have struggled a lot, right? So and finally find out a solution that how to successfully upgrade your applications, or successfully upgrade your EKS cluster from version 1.29 to 1.30, right? And then now let's try to do one more check. So I have a command prompt, as I said earlier, right? So here you see that the node that they at last that are being retained, or these are the nodes, and the pods are running, right? So now what we do is we lastly check whether the port forwarding, we do a port forwarding, and then we try to access the application. If the application is working fine, which means that we have successfully the completed the migration, I can say, or basically the upgrade. So let's do a port forwarding finally. Let me get the command basically. So I'm just finding the command that we have run, and lastly, or let me do port forwarding from here itself. So I have two sessions, so I can do a port forwarding from here only. Right, so I'm do a port forwarding from here, and then we'll try to access the the our service, that is our application that is hosted on EKS cluster, and which evaluates that application is still up and running fine, right? So application is up and running fine finally. All right, so I have shown you the things need to be shown in this video from scratch to end, with detailed troubleshooting session as well, right? And finally, I can't request please to subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. With that note, thank you, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.